Hi, I'm Ricky, and this is my darling friend Elaine.
Hey, Ricky. Thanks for letting me join you today.
Oh my God. Today we're going to talk about starting your family when you're in your 30s. Hashtag 30's the new 20, right? Here we are. So, Laner,
Yes.
we want to get two things out of the way.
All right.
One of them, listener, Elaine is Nina's mom. Nina, the listeners know as my sister. So technically, Elaine's my mom.
I am. I really am your mom. So remember that during this interview, okay?
Oh shit. Okay. And the other thing is, right before we jumped on to this session, this recording session, I had an alert from Page 6 saying that Larsa and Marcus broke up.
I saw it. I saw it this morning. And then, of course, Zach Peter confirmed it. So once he confirms it, you know it's true. They
I'm
totally,
like,
yep,
how and
unfollow
why?
every photo taken off. I know.
Like obsessed with each other. Well, at least she was obsessed with him.
Well, she was obsessed with him. And I think, of course, I watch Miami every week, right? As I'm
Yeah,
sure you do.
same.
So they're also a few months behind, right? So the last episode, they are. She throws a party for him if he's gone for 5 minutes. I think there's a lot of insecurity on her end, to be honest, right? And I think it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's a lot. I'm not sure. And who knows
Yeah.
if he did something or not. But all of a sudden,
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah.
So I am watching Traders, which is a game show. Are you familiar?
I am familiar. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with this show, first of all.
Are you?
I'm about to pay $35 plus $40 in shipping to get the Traders board game from BBC.
Back to Larsa for a second. You know, I feel, and who knows? I mean, obviously, there's the age thing, but really, who cares about that? Except who knows if that was an issue? You know, all sorts of rumors going around about other stuff, and who knows? Who even wants to put that out there?
Yeah,
sure. But
I mentioned Larsa and Marcus because I mentioned Traders because Larsa and Marcus were on Traders.
Oh, they were?
Yes, Marcus got voted. I mean, spoiler alert, listener.
Yeah.
Marcus got voted off early, but it was because he was figuring stuff out. And so they not voted off. The traitors, like the bad people that like kill people.
Yeah.
Like air quotes kill.
Yeah.
They killed him because he was just too smart.
Oh.
And he like was figuring shit out by like episode 2. And they were like, oh, you need to leave.
Yeah.
You're going to win this, so you need to leave.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah.
I know. Back to the topic, you guys. So Elaine is Nina's mom. Nina on her episode, Elaine, I haven't aired Nina's episode yet, but it'll air before this one. You're like, is what? So on Nina's episode, Nina said that she was 31, and so Elaine is her mom, and so you can just do math as at your leisure. But Elaine started having kids when she was 30, and I have her.
Nope.
No.
34.
That's crazy because you look like you're 41 years old right now.
If only. Without the fillers, right?
I know, without the fillers. A very natural 41 she looks. So a lot of us, a lot of the listeners, a lot of my friends, a lot of my people that I know, a lot of people, celebrities even.
Yeah.
Everyone's having kids in their 30s.
Yes.
And so it's not a thing, like we don't know a lot of people that had kids older, except for in my husband's family and on both sides of my family. You have the accident. The grandma was 40 and she got pregnant when she was 40, and that's how I have an Aunt Debbie, and that's how I have a Nana.
Right.
So
that's so funny. Yeah.
And then with my husband, you know, this man married this woman. They had 3 kids separately, and then they were Brady bunched, and then they had my husband.
Wow.
And so he obviously had like 3 sets of parents, and the same thing with my aunt. So I know that story, and that story is kind of familiar to me, at least. But what everybody's doing right now, what I'm looking forward to doing, what Nina's doing, like having kids in our 30s after we're established, or maybe not. After we've like lived and YOLO'd and partied or not, you know what I mean? So I just like, let's go back.
Okay.
We graduated high school.
Right.
In Massachusetts, in Western Mass.
Yep, exactly.
And then what happened?
So after high school, I went to college in Massachusetts still. And then, so I was 22 when I graduated and moved that summer to Boston with a couple of friends.
What did you go to college for? Sorry to interrupt, but what did you go to college for?
Well, I went, what I went for and what I majored in and what I really wanted to do were all three different answers. So I guess I majored, this is back, don't forget, like in the 80s, right? So it was smart to major in economics and so that
what
was
even
not
is economics?
Finance,
Oh, okay.
world economy, local economy, all that stuff.
Okay,
so,
girl, you want to be a finance bro?
No, I didn't at all. I was a ballet dancer, right?
Right.
So what I really wanted to do was dance, but also at some point, and I danced in college and did the performing arts thing and all that stuff, but I was never going to be good enough to be truly a professional. So long story short, had I been smart enough at that time, or maybe courageous enough, I would have said, you know what, let me look at the back of the house. Let me go to New York and work on, be back of the house for New York City Ballet or American Ballet or something like that, and use those skills and what I know sort of on the business and marketing side to do that at that time. But dance was too emotional for me. So I couldn't picture myself not dancing and doing other stuff for it. So anyway,
ooh, that's intense.
There was my major, and then there was what I really loved to do. And I was also, I loved English literature. So I minored in that. But what do you do with that unless you're going to teach? I wasn't going to teach. So anyway.
Elaine the romantic.
I know, right? Yeah. I always struggle with, two sides of me. So anyway, got out of college in 1980 and moved to Boston with two friends. Got a job underwriting life insurance at John Hancock in the big tower in Boston, which sounds thrilling, right? And it certainly was not. But it paid for the apartment that I had. I got the apartment.
Snooze fest.
I had my apartment with my friends before I had a job. So my mother's like, you know what, you better figure this out quickly, right?
Yeah.
So I met my future husband, Nina's dad.
Lenny,
the first day of work in the summer of 1980. He also came to Hancock. He was a Boston guy, right? Went to Boston College. And so we met there. We were both dating. I had been in a 3-year relationship during college with this other guy. I was really ready to break up with him and whatever. And so we both had sort of other things going on and kind of one by one got rid of those and ended up together. So anyway, so we were 22, but I think the important part of it is that actually we got married when we were 25.
Oh, okay. Yes. That's like right away almost.
Yeah, which is interesting for the listener out there. We've been divorced for about 13 years, but at the time in love and having fun and doing the whole thing. I would say now, I think we had really genuine love for each other, but neither of us, for some similar reasons and some different reasons, were probably not ready to get married. Weren't ready to get married at all. I needed, I was coming out of a really difficult, home life situation with my parents growing up. And I think I just needed to, understand my strength and who I was,
life lessons.
Yep. And I think Lenny certainly needed to do his stuff for a longer time. So I think getting married at 25 was, too early for us.
Do you think that that's just what people did back then? You had to be married at a certain time. And so that had an influence?
You know what? I think that was changing. It's even obviously less so of an issue now, but I think we didn't have to, I think we wanted to. And like I said, on some levels, it was, all about that, but neither of us were, I think having the time, to your point, regardless of whether it's kids or marriage or whatever, to really, your 20s, to really develop, to really understand who you are, to really start getting a sense of, 20s are brutal, right? 30s get better, but I think just understanding who you are, who you want to be, knowing your own strength before you kind of totally hitch your wagon to somebody else, right? And try to figure it out together when you're both still young and trying to figure out.
There's something about growing up with somebody, but at the same time, there's something about growing by yourself.
Totally.
And knowing who you are.
Knowing who you are. Yeah.
Put your shit on someone else.
And I don't really think, I would say either of us knew who we really were at that time.
Yeah.
I also think that's why, to the point of this whole discussion, right? We did not rush into having children.
Yeah.
We wanted to have children, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I want to be pregnant at 27. I think we both knew we weren't ready.
Yeah.
So, we worked and we had fun and traveled a little bit and, so it was 8 years really before we decided, the beginning of whatever that year was, when I had just turned 34 and literally I got pregnant in 5 seconds. I went off the pill and I was pregnant with Nina in 2 minutes. Typical Nina, like
Nina
right
got
away.
your genes. Nina got your fertility genes.
Yeah. So
she blinked and said, I want to be pregnant. And then poof.
There I was. Yeah. So she was born when I was 34.
So we traveled, which is always life goals. Where did you guys travel to?
Well, at that time, we traveled and we skied and we, did things like that, but we didn't travel far and wide. I mean, we went to like Europe years later. Actually, I'm sorry. No, you know what? We did that before Nina was born. I'm sorry. We did do an Italy and Germany trip. We had friends who were living over there. So we did a great trip. That's right. I'm sorry. That was before Nina was born. And we would take ski trips and stuff like that. But we wanted to do more. It's also a money thing, right? I mean, it's also, what you want to do, maybe what you can do. So
there's always the broke way of traveling. And being on the struggle bus. And then there's the established, I work in the John Hancock building and I've saved some coins.
Yes. I don't know that we were the best savers in the world at that time.
But sure.
So we did some and, certainly wanted to do more. And, we did more when, we had our kids and whatever. But when we decided to go for it, it happened.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Did you stay doing underwriting for a long time?
No, you know what? I left that. So that was about 3 or 4 years. And then I got into, I managed a couple of clothing stores and did some retail management stuff. And then actually in like 1987, which is 4 years before Nina was born, I started working for Boston University. They had a huge, great, well, still their bookstore in Kenmore Square, right?
Yeah.
They also
now
had
it's
retail.
Run by a third party.
Yeah. It was called 660 Corporation, which at the time was kind of the retail arm of Boston University. So anyway, but they had a first floor that was all clothing and cool merchandise. And, they had pretty good market there because a lot of those BU students could come in and buy that stuff, right? So I ran the whole kind of retail division there. And then I was offered, it was great. And then I was offered while I was there to start working in the human resources department to actually start staffing because this company that was part of BU owned about 13 or so bookstores and convenience stores.
Right.
So they needed everyone from VPs of marketing down to, people who were stocking the shelves.
Yeah.
So I had a great opportunity to learn about recruiting and all of that. So, and what's important about that is, and then I was pregnant with Nina and I left that when I had Nina. In 91, I left that job for about 18 months. But during that time, it's sort of a fun career thing too. We started working with an ad agency and I loved that side of the business. And Jeff Taylor, who I was working with at the time from the ad agency, is the guy who ended up developing, launching Monster, the huge global, right.
Yeah, the Purple M.
Right. So I got to know him. We worked really well together and I was his client, whatever. I left. Had Nina, and when she was about 18 months old, I said, I want to go to back just a couple days a week on the advertising side. I'd love to learn it. Right. And Lenny was just like, great, because I really took a huge dip in salary too, right? I mean, but just to figure it out, see if I really wanted it. So ended up being able to work for Jeff part-time. And
at Monster?
Well, yes, I was the first, there were 8 of us that launched Monster and I was one of them. I was the advertising manager.
Needle Mosquito. Oh my God.
Yeah, I worked for him a little bit at his old ad agency, sort of as the media director, even though I had not earned that title because I didn't know what I was doing. But
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, but he brought me in and he's like, "You learn the ropes. I'm going to give you the title, and you learn the ropes." And I was still doing part-time, a couple days a week. And then he took about 7 or 8 of us from that agency to launch Monster. So that's how I really got into the whole advertising thing, which was so great. Yeah. But
that's so cool.
Yeah. But that was, I was at that point 35, almost 36. Nina was almost 2 years old. And you start the juggling act of, childcare, and which is so expensive. And how do you do it and not be away all the time? And how do you, if you want to grow a career? I mean, all that stuff, right? And everyone's different in how that works. So
how did that work for you?
So it worked. I mean, I really think about it, every year was different in terms of how it evolved. I mean, when I first started, it was literally Tuesday and Thursday, making just enough money to pay. I found this great girl at BU that I knew who was wonderful and adored. Nina was, of course, the charming baby. I would come home.
The charming baby that she is today.
Yeah. I would come home every time. She'd be like, "Oh my God, Elaine, you can't believe what she did today." She like, bit her own toe. She's so brilliant,
Oh my God.
Just like, really yeah. So anyway, so I was able to do that. And then when Nina was almost 4, Lenny got an opportunity in Naples, Florida. And his parents, they had been down there for a few years. His mom had passed away, unfortunately, and very unexpectedly, but his dad was still down there. So anyway, we said, hey, why not? Let's, fun, change it up. It was a great opportunity for him in the banking thing. And I was able to work remotely actually for a while until it grew to, I know.
Oh my God.
I
Remote
know.
before remote was the word.
It was, I know. So did that. Nina was in this cute little pre-K private school in Naples, Florida, which was run by a woman from New England. So it felt very like home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did that, which was great. And then it was becoming too big. And so my boss at Monster was like, who ended up becoming my advertising partner later. But she said, if you can tell me you're coming back in 6 months, we can keep doing this. But if you're not coming back, I need 110% right now. Cause we went from 8 people to about 1,500 people in a year and a half. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
I said, I can't promise you that, you know? So anyway, I had to leave. And at that time, I also got pregnant with Mia in 1997. And at that time I was 39.
And so just to paint a picture.
Yeah.
So you are a very social lady, I know. And so I don't even know if you have siblings because I
have an older brother. I have
an older brother.
Yeah.
So do you have nieces and nephews that are preteens? Do you have friends that have kids that are like 10 years old already? Like what's the social circle?
Yeah. So the social circle at that time, actually with Nina, I had a few friends who had children about the same age. They may have had one older, right? Like there would be a 3-year-old and then there'd be a, Nina version, right? So I did have friends with similar ages, which was really nice.
That's so cool. You had a whole little pioneer crew.
I did.
Pioneering Monster.com, pioneering working from home, pioneering having kids in your 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I mean, it's so, no matter whether you're having kids at 22 or 32 or whatever, having some sort of posse to be able to connect with, right?
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you have play dates and the moms, if it's close enough to 5 o'clock, you might pour a glass of wine, play 1 more hour, kids.
Yeah. Right.
No, but yeah, so it was great to have those friendships and that support, system. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then, so when Nina was 6,
right.
Mia was born in 1998 when we were in Florida, and we had met people down there through Mia's, through Nina's school, which was great. I'm trying to think if anyone actually had babies at that time. Maybe one friend had sort of a Mia age, an infant or whatever. So yeah, so she was born in 98 when I was 40 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
There's hope for me, guys.
I was barefoot and pregnant in Florida, but it was great. I was the healthiest ever. Oh my God. We had a swim. I swam every day. I was biking. I was like,
I love that you mentioned Florida because Nina also very briefly mentioned Florida on her episode.
Yeah. Yeah. She was there from 4 till 7, basically. Yeah.
So cute. Yeah. I vaguely remember sitting on the beach at Hampton Beach with Nina and my cousin Jonathan and my parents, and Nina telling us about how she lived in Florida.
Oh, that's so
funny. And about like working in a restaurant or something, and how like Lenny listens to Spanish music, and that's how she knows all the same songs as my dad knows.
Yeah.
So cute. Oh. I love that.
Although I would just say, I think I listened to more Spanish music than Lenny did. I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that. But Nina introduced me to a ton of it. So she gets all the credit for that. Yeah. So yeah, so I was 34 and 40 when I had kids.
That's so cool. I think this is an important topic because it's fun, just because so many of us are doing the same thing.
Yeah, sure.
But also, like, I'm trying to think of like the people who like have kids that are like a little bit older now. They had kids, early 30s.
Yes.
They all have friends that are doing the same thing. So like I have cousins, and they're actually like my 3rd and 4th cousins.
Yeah.
They are all having kids together, and we're all around the same age.
Wow.
Like they're a little bit younger than me.
Yeah.
And they're all having kids, like multiples, like having all these kids, and they're all around the same age, and they're all best friends. And it's so funny because that's how we grew up.
Yeah.
We're all like, every 6 months there was a birthday. When we all turned 21, are you kidding?
Oh my God.
Every 6 months we're going to the club because it was somebody else's birthday. And
that's fantastic.
The new generation, at least in my family, is doing the same thing. And I just think that that's so cute.
I love that. Yeah.
What was it like? Like, the kids are going to school.
Yeah.
You're involved-ish with school. Yeah. Are all the parents younger than you, and is it weird?
So involved in school-ish, yep, because I was also working full-time.
Right.
That became even more important as kind of the years went on, and things were changing. Yeah, I was working more, but I was also, leaving at 2:30 to pick up Mia.
Yeah.
Home, making dinner, and then when they went to bed, back online and working, right? So it's all that juggling to kind of make that happen. But I didn't want coming home,
a working mom,
especially working with an ad agency. I mean, and myself and two other partners started an ad agency in 2000 and we got acquired in 2008. But yeah, so we had our own gig going for a while and
running a business and having
running
two
a
kids.
business. But the woman who sort of launched that was a woman that I worked with at Monster. And anyway, she divorced and she had two kids and she was very much about that balance, thankfully. So it was like
you had a Cliff Notes.
And she was, I mean, hey, look, we had to do what we had to do for our clients, but it was never, I mean, family came first. And I was lucky to have that because not everyone has that,
Yeah. I mean, we all watched Mad Men.
Yeah.
And family was not first.
No. And I mean, I had to keep fighting for it in sort of certain situations as time went on, but that's
just work.
But to your point, yes, a lot of the mothers were younger for sure. So how did it affect me? I mean, yeah, I was involved in school as much as I could be. And there were the mothers who were, there every day and, made all the brownies all the time. Like, well, I'm never going to be that person, but that's okay. But get a life a little bit's okay too. You don't make every brownie every time.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Is it weird that they were all younger? Or you guys didn't interact that much, so it didn't matter?
You know what? I mean, most of my really good friends are younger than me.
Okay.
Some by 10 or 12 years.
Okay.
Some by maybe 5, not huge. Well, actually, I don't know if I don't feel it now. I think the difference now is too, I mean, I'm enough older than them and most of them are still married. I mean, obviously there have been some divorces and things like that, but a little bit of a different life, right? So I noticed that more than the kid thing now, but yes, I would say for sure that I'm trying to think if I felt negatively about it. I didn't feel negatively about it. And like I said, I made some really good friends.
Well, it sounds like you are blessed with a lot of confidence because you were doing so many things as a woman in 1980 and 1990, which people are still on the struggle bus to do that shit now. Nowadays, sometimes it feels like there's only a woman in charge because there's a quota to meet.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we love that she's in charge and we're not trying to discount anything. And she obviously made it for people to get her name. But sometimes when you look at leaders in businesses, you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
You have all these old white guys and the one black, younger manager. And it's giving quota.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that working with, I mean, and as I got being in the advertising business and most of the ad agency people that I worked with, other than to your point, upper management, the people who were, account execs and things like that, these great, I mean, they were, sometimes 20 years younger than me. So I was now 43 back in Boston, right? Working in the advertising industry, which was fun. But a lot of the people either working for me or with me were 25 or 26, right? And they were going out on their life was totally different.
Right.
So, and as it should be at that time. I mean, it wasn't a problem, but the distance between that was so interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have that in that industry when I was that age. I was older, Also, I think the difference was some of my friends worked and had careers and others were, either fortunate enough or whatever to not have to work.
Right.
That's a different lifestyle too, right?
Totally.
So that's a different thing. So maybe younger, maybe more financially at a higher situation that makes everything a little bit easier. So, and you kind of find the people that you can do your things with, right? Everyone does. And
birds of a feather.
Yeah. And so, some of those friends that I had were certainly, I wasn't always as available as some of those other people were. Be able to go and do, right? Because I was working full time and doing all this other stuff. So I don't know if that's an age, partly an age thing, maybe with some of the younger ones, and also partly lifestyle and finances and whatever, right? All those things. Yeah. We all have that, no matter how old we are.
So I mentioned that you were blessed with confidence and that you were a boss babe.
I will say though, just for the listener again, I look back now and when I talk about it, it's like, oh wow, but I was not blessed with confidence, to be honest with you.
Well, you made something out of something.
I know, I did. And now when I look back, I say, Elaine, why didn't I give myself more of a pass back then? Why wasn't I better to myself back then?
Well, I talk about it all the time about myself. Imposter syndrome is a mother effer.
It is.
You know what I mean?
And you'd be surprised, right? How many people have it that you think would never have it. And some people would say that about me. I can't believe it. It's like, yeah, well, it's true. I have friends who are like wildly successful and it's like, I can't believe I'm still doing this. They haven't figured me out yet, right? Even though they're so successful. It's like, yeah, it's a real thing.
It's totally a thing.
Painful.
But I'm gonna go ahead and tell the listener and all the people that you did a wonderful job being a woman, a beautiful smoking hot smoke show woman in the 80s and 90s.
Oh my God.
Doing all kinds of Mad Men shit. We love this.
You. Oh my God.
We love this for you. You weren't sleeping your way to the top like
I was
in the
not.
Show.
Maybe I should have.
You were
have
barely sleeping.
Sure.
Right. You were barely sleeping because you had
barely sleeping.
kids.
Yeah, barely sleeping. Yeah.
You had little wild Nina. And so with yourself maturing and aging and gaining so much success, like having these, I mean, they're 4 years apart, having these teenagers or having actually. Nina a teenager and me as a tween, but maybe she wants to do the things that Nina's doing or whatever the case was. What was that like? Was it just like, these girls are going to run me ragged, or like, no?
All of that. I mean, they were actually 6 years apart.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Math was not mathing.
Yeah, it's okay. So Nina, when Mia was 12 and Nina was gone at 18, right? To college. So, so there was that big divide, but it kind of went from, Mia being the cute little annoying little sister when Nina's friends would come over, right?
Right.
She would love to annoy them and do
but very, very hilarious, annoying little sister.
Hilarious, right? Yeah, she did all that. And, and then sort of them living their own lives because they were so different in age, but I mean, always close. And they had they had battles like every sisters do, but they've gotten over time, right? As they get older, they're really close.
I love how really close they are.
Yeah, I do too. But
it is like
about like, what was it like in the house, especially when you think about Mia at 12 and Nina just about to graduate from high school, it was also the same time that we were getting separated. Right.
I was thinking that, but I didn't know if it was part of the story.
Yeah, no, but it was, because that's stress for everyone, for all of us, right? And so trying to manage that and trying to make sure Mia's okay as a 13-year-old in middle school and being okay, going off to college. And, at the same time, my mom got sick, so she moved in with me for where she passed away. And I'm glad that we were able to do that, and working full time and making sure that,
still being a boss bitch.
Yeah. So, not like kudos to me. I don't mean it that way, but to your point, it was
still kudos to you.
A lot happening, right? So I think that age difference and my age being older, I don't know, maybe I always thought that sometimes things came later to me. So maybe that was the same. I mean, now, I'm 66. I have a 4-month-old granddaughter who's just the mush bag cutest thing in my life.
The literal cutest thing in everyone's life.
I know, she's just, and I want to, at this point, I'm healthy and well, so I'm not being like, oh my God, but it's like, I want to be here for, obviously Mia's wedding and Mia's grandkids and maybe a Pia number 2 or whatever it is. And it's like, so that's the hard part. That's a little bit later. It's not as though if I had my kids at 25 and, my husband and I are in our mid 50s and financially
empty nesting.
Yeah. And now we do like, whatever the next thing is. So it's not like that at all. But I also kind of feel blessed that I've had to kind of dig in and do it, because it makes me healthier. And I know that I'm independent. I know that I can take care of myself and help my kids and do the best I can do with it. So I'm actually thankful. That experience has done a lot for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. That's such a good story, Elaine.
Oh, thank you.
You might just be like, oh, it's just my life. It's just like the stuff that happened.
Yeah.
But to me, knowing more details about your background and your life is fantastic. I knew that you were successful in advertising, but I didn't know that you were just bossing it up, girlfriend. And so that's a lovely part of the story, and that's super inspiring just for people who want to make it in a man's world, because it's 2024, but this shit's still a man's world. But also people who want to make it and also have a family. And maybe they want to spend a couple years in Florida. I don't know. We don't know how closely these people
that looks like
to follow your life.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Of course. I'm so happy to. Thank you for asking me.
When I asked you, were you like, bitch, for what?
Are you gonna send me questions in advance? What am I gonna be talking about?
Oh, I would literally never do that. Be warned, anyone listening to the show who I ask, I will never. I even told Nina, I was like, don't tell her I'm gonna ask her, because I don't want her to be anxious about it until I ask, and then be anxious about it.
You know what? Listen, speaking of, boss bitch and badass and all of that, look what you're doing right now. You're working time. You are married. You are helping raise a beautiful
Ryan.
Yeah. And you know what? And also, you're just on the side, by the way, doing a podcast that's getting, some traction. So
it really is.
So how about you? Let's talk about that for a second.
I mean, it's fine. So I'm still, and this has been a theme for the last, with this episode included 3 episodes. I don't understand that I'm 35 years old.
Yeah.
I don't like that math ain't mathing, babe. Because like, I do think that I'm successful. I think that when I worked that retail job for almost 10 years, I think that I was very successful there.
Yes.
And I was able to buy a house and all this stuff.
That's huge though. Don't brush. I mean, that's huge. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And so my husband, so when I said this to my husband about like, I don't like, what have I done at 35? Like, I like people are successful at 35. Like we have this mentality, 35-year-olds, millennials in general, we're children.
Yeah.
We don't, why are you putting us in charge?
I know.
What are you doing?
I've heard that before, by the way. So
Are you sure?
That's so funny.
And so I have this in my head, like I'm a young person, but then I meet actual young people, like my kids.
Yeah.
And Vinny and Becky's kid, like I'm like, wait, I'm actually like the weird fucking old lady who thinks she's young. I'm like the weird one. Like I remember the first time I met Vinny, like me and my husband, not that we were trying to be woke, but like I know woke things and I know what the kids are doing and saying. And so I remember
never sounding like that, right? Because it's like I'm like, you know what? Like I think I know stuff, but I don't want to say like I don't want to
right.
Weird old lady.
I said to little Vinny, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, do you have a boyfriend?" "Do you have a friend?" And then he was like, "No." And then my husband, when he met him for the first time, he said, "Hey man, what's your pronouns?"
Oh.
And I was like, first of all, this is the child of Vinny. Like that's not his vibe. Like he's very blue collar.
Yeah.
And here we are asking his child, "What are your pronouns?" And I was like,
I love that.
Like, am I trying to make fetch hat? Like I'm a cool mom. You guys keep me so young, like in Mean Girls.
Well, you are cool and you're successful and you rock and you're smart. So and your hair is fabulous right now. So let's just throw that in for the audience.
Guys, I straightened my hair this morning.
Your hair is so great.
Thank you, Elaine. You didn't have to say all that stuff, but thanks for letting the people know.
It's true. I mean it.
Let's go have some dinner.
I wish. I know. You're coming over soon, by the way. So you don't have to put that in the show.
I'm totally going to. Guys, thank you for listening. Please share our podcast with your friends because if you like us, then probably your friends will too. If you're looking to follow me on Instagram, my name is @coldheartcoveredingold. If you're looking for Becky, who will be back soon, is @Becky_BE. Please follow us on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Music, which is soon to be YouTube Music. I don't know. iHeartRadio and Amazon Podcasts. Thanks. Bye.